whole lot of things that have been happening, and we can't just say let's discuss this and not discuss that. Let's try as much as possible to see what we can do in the next few minutes. My guest, Johnson Chukwu, the Group Managing Director, as well as the Chief Executive Officer at Carry Asset Management, will be joining me to put in some kind of perspectives and give us insight as to what is happening really with the Nigerian economy, especially as we prepare for May 29th inauguration. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is back to the country, the president-elect. What are we expecting? Will his team, will he get on the ground running, unlike what we saw with President Buhari when he came in 2015, and it took him about 6 months or thereabout to set up a team? What are we expecting from Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he comes up, and what are the economic challenges ahead for this administration? We'll be looking at that and more during this program, but let's quickly take the business news. States of America increased their earnings by 1,500%. This was contained in the World Development Report for 2023, Migrants, Refugees and Societies, which was released on the World Bank's website on Tuesday. According to the report, the potential gains from migration are greatest for people who moved from low-income to high-income countries. However, income gain is sometimes partially offset by the financial cost of moving, especially for the low-skilled. The National Bureau of Statistics has stated that the cost of power in telecommunication services has hit 33.47 billion naira per month, following a 55.16% year-on-year increase in the cost of diesel. Diesel prices rose to 836 naira 81 kobo per litre in March 2023 from 539 naira 32 kobo per litre in the previous year. This increased the monthly cost of powering base stations from 21.57 billion naira in March 2022 to 33.47 billion naira in March 2023. The cost of operating base stations is expected to exceed 401.67 billion naira by the end of 2023 at the current rate. The Nigerian Communications Commission revealed that there were 38,288 base stations in the country as at the end of 2021. The World Trade Organization, the World Bank Group, and the World Economic Forum have announced the start of action on climate and trade. In a statement, the WTO stated that the objective of the initiative was to help developing economies, particularly the less developed countries, use trade as a tool to achieve their climate change mitigation and adaptation targets. It noted that the act will provide tailored insights to participate in developing economies so that they can plan for the impacts of climate change on trade, leverage opportunities for climate action and trade growth, and define areas of collaboration with trade partners. The March edition of the NGX Domestic and Foreign Portfolio Investment Report, which was released this month, disclosed that foreign investment in the Nigerian Exchange Limited decreased by 53.16% from 19.62 billion naira to 9.19 billion naira. Total foreign transactions decreased by 53.16% from about 19.62 billion naira to 9.19 billion naira. In the same month, total transactions at the local bourse decreased by 22.6% from 188.91 billion naira in February 2023 to 146.22 billion naira in March 2023. The federal government, through the Ministry of Niger Delta, has signed a deal with a U.S.-based firm, Atlanta Global Resources, Inc., for the construction of a $15 billion rail project that will cover all 9 Niger Delta states. The agreement was signed on Tuesday at the NDDC Public-Private Partnership Summit in Lagos with the theme Rewind to Rebirth. Speaking at the event, Umana, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, stated that the PPP was an initiative aimed at attracting foreign and private investors to fund the region's massive developmental challenges, noting that the PPP was part of an action plan to reposition the NDDC, the national economy, and development. Finally, if you're a DSTV subscriber, you've got to listen to this. MultiChoice Nigeria has revealed that it will implement another price increment across its DSTV packages on May 1, 2023. This comes 1 year after a similar upward prices review was announced and implemented in April 2022. The increment in the prices of the various DSTV packages is between 16.3% and 18.6%, and the company stated that the latest increase is as a result of various economic challenges facing the business. DSTV noted that starting May 1, subscribers on the premium package will pay 24,500 naira, a 16.7% rise from the 21,000 naira they are currently paying, while the compact plus bouquet price is also increased to 16,600 from 14,250 naira monthly, which is a 16.5% jump. All right, that's it for the business news at this time. Let's quickly take a break. When we return from the break, my guest will be joining me. We have a lot to discuss. Let's see what we can achieve within now and about 11:55 a.m. Nigerian time. Let's quickly take a break. We'll be right back. In case you're not joining us online, please do follow us on all our social media accounts. We are also on YouTube. Follow us or subscribe at Moneyline with Nancy at TV, where you get to see the show there. You can also watch on the go in case you're not at home at this time. TV is on the go now, you know. So you can actually watch the show on YouTube, AIT.live. You can also watch us at Moneyline with Nancy TV. We'll be right back after this break. To stay. All right, welcome back to the program. Johnson Chukwu, who is the Group Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer at Carrier Asset Management, is joining me right now virtually from the Commercial Nerve Center of the country, Lagos State, I suppose. Mr. Chukwu, good morning to you. I guess you're in Lagos or you are somewhere else. Welcome to the program. Okay, Mr. Chukwu, I will need you to unmute yourself. Have you unmute your audio?
Yes.
Okay, now I can hear you. So you are in Lagos, isn't it? You are in Lagos, isn't it?
Yes, I'm in Lagos.
Okay.
Sure. I'm in the commercial capital of the country.
Okay, give me the weather report. I know you used to be my meteorologist for Lagos, because yesterday here in Abuja it did rain. You know, yesterday evening.
Yesterday evening, we did the island. It rained just a little, but this morning the weather the sun has been quite bright. The weather has been not quite. The sun is not quite hot, but we have a relatively humid weather in Lagos, particularly the island.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Chukwu, we just have a few more days to May 29, the inauguration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president-elect. He's back from Europe. Okay, just before I go into that, let me ask you this question. Do you think that politicking is over? Because we saw a lot of politicking in the first quarter of this year. Do you think that it's over, that these politicians are gearing up right now for governance? Perhaps the incoming ones, and do you think that the existing ones, those that are there right now, do you think they are still in any way governing a bit, or they are just a lame duck administration? I'm talking about Buhari's administration right now. They are just waiting to exit the door.
Well, Nancy, like rightly no, they just have the outgoing governments at the different levels. I just have a few days to go. Today is 26th of April. And the exit terminal date is 29th of May. So they have, at best, just about 30-something days to exit the seat of power. So as it stands today, I believe most of them have actually packing their bags and baggages. Many of them are making arrangements. Their priority is the after governance or after public life experience, or what it will be, life will be after public life. So I don't think there will be any major policy issue that will take place in the next 30 days or thereabout. We are, like you rightly said, they are not lame dogs. Even at that, somebody had told me jokingly that for states where there are new governors elect, all the political interest groups are now pivoting away from the outgoing government and moving towards the incoming government. So in that case, the outgoing government may not even have the support base to carry out any fundamental policy action. So I think at this point in time, we have to be content with
Okay, Mr. Chukwu, did I hear you also mention states? How about states that their governors have been re-elected? Do you think that they would also possess this lame duck position or the lame duck posture? Or there will be those states where they have re-elected governors, it will be easier to, to do a transition?
No, it doesn't matter. Where is the of the 28 states for their elections? Virtually all the incoming governors are beginning to be the center of attraction for political interest. So the outgoing governments at all levels, and the out 26 states, out 28 states that there was governorship election, are clearly no longer in position to take fundamental policy decisions. They will still take administrative decisions like payment of salaries, running expenses, but should they try to take any fundamental decision, it's likely to be resisted, particularly if it's not considered as the general interest of the public. We know that at all levels of political offices, the outgoing government, just barely a month ago, will certainly not have the levers to take critical and fundamental policy decisions.
Do you think that some of the state governors that have been embarking on, these elephant projects, so to speak, just before they leave? You've just mentioned your states now, and a few other states that will just embark on something. I shouldn't call their names, we all know them. What do you think that these governors are really doing? You've been there for perhaps, in fact, most of them 8 years. I think all of them really 8 years. And just 4 weeks or even 6 weeks or 2 months to your exit, you are launching something that is very enormous that you can't do. What exactly is the motive behind this?
Well, because the human motives, the best that is to speak before this would be the first motive that comes to anybody's mind is that one, they just occur to them that their terminal date is around the corner, and they did not know that 8 years or 4 years will just pass them by. So they are just waking up to realize that their tenures are out, and all the dreams or that they thought they could use to immortalize themselves, the things they thought they could have done over that period, they just woke up and now realize time was against them and they want to start doing them. That's one aspect of human thought or human speculation. The other aspect, which is quite if it becomes the case, quite unfortunate, is that some of them do not, when they look at what they have stacked up from public resources, they think it's not just enough yet. And they want to create channels and avenues to further pillage the public treasury. And they are setting up projects, trying to start projects and voting monies that they know that will not be implemented. So I think in a number of states we are seeing that happen, where the outgoing government is trying to initiate projects and making disbursements that clearly the job will not be done or not likely to be done, and they're just looking for ways of further feathering their nests in terms of stacking up personal resources from public treasury for their retirement. Those are what I could hazard a guess on, or could guess. But like I said, these are human motives, and there's no science through which anybody can effectively and accurately judge what's going on in somebody's mind. But we're just playing on common logic, because there's no reasonable justification where a person has been in power for 8 years and 1 month or 2 months to the exit of that government, you now remember you have to implement legacy project that you will not go 1/10 of the requirements to execute them.
Out of all the economic challenges that we have, Mr. Chukwu, I would really like you to expatiate or just tell me which ones do you think are of so much importance right now, because we're talking of, I can reel out many of the economic challenges right now, but which do you think is really staring us in the face and that the incoming administration should try to sort out, perhaps, or try to give us a map as to how they will sort it out within the next, if they come on board within the next 100 days?
It depends on which strata of government are you referring to. Is it the
federal government?
Or the state
Federal
level?
government.
Okay, if we look at the federal government, one of the greatest challenges they have is in terms of revenue shortfall, because the revenue shortfall has multiplier effects on the ability of government. Trillion naira. At the same time, between January and November last year, the government has spent 5.24 trillion naira on debt service, leaving just barely 1 trillion, 1.2 trillion naira for all the government expenditure. So, which is what is leading us to the huge debt burden that the government is carrying. Today, we are talking of ways and means funding of about 26 trillion. We are talking of federal national debt about 46 trillion. So if you add the national debt of 46 trillion to about 26 trillion of ways and means funding, then you are in the region of 72 trillion naira, that is national debt, which, like I said, we are currently spending about 80%. If you look at if you do the maths and you consider a 5.24 trillion naira debt service against a 6.5 trillion naira total federal government revenue, you are talking about a debt service of about 80%. So if you now bring into that till the 26 trillion naira ways and means funding that the government has been trying to securitize, then you are certainly going to have a debt service that is more than government revenue. So government revenue growth is a critical factor that has to be addressed. And a lot of things will come from, will be addressed if we can address the revenue. We are going to address the issue of government budget deficit, which will also flush into the government borrowing, which will further flush into the debt service of the government, as well as the capacity of the government to invest in critical social and infrastructural development. As today, we are having major weaknesses in the social infrastructure. Security, for instance.
Oh, okay. It seems to have lost Mr. Chukwu. Mr. Chukwu, just hold on a bit. Let's quickly take a break. When we come back, let's try to reconnect with you. I will be right back. Johnson Chukwu, the Group Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer at Cowrie Asset Management, is still with me. We went on a break earlier on. Mr. Chukwu, welcome back, or Chief Chukwu, welcome back to the program. Now, I would want you to land on what you were saying earlier before the network had a fast one on us. Just land on your point.
Okay, so just quickly to land, I have to put it in. So I was saying that the most critical factor that will concern any government at the federal level is the issue of revenue. Now, the revenue will determine the ability of the government to, the amount the government will borrow, the debt service the government is going to incur, and when we grow the revenue, we also now have the headroom to invest in critical infrastructure. I mentioned the issue of the fact that government is not even investing enough in public goods like security, the military, the police largely underfunded, and then you have to look at the issue of funding education and healthcare as well as infrastructure. And I did say that if you look at what happened by November last year, total government deficit was about 6.3 trillion naira because government total revenue was just about 12.8 trillion naira, and government expenditure was about 12.8 trillion naira, while expenditure was about 6.5 trillion, and leaving the deficit about 6.3 3 trillion naira. And that flows into your debt growth, which meant that your liabilities of government borrowing had to increase. And government borrowing increasing also is that additional pressure on interest payments. So the core problem we have is we have to address the issue of revenue. Of course, the other ancillary issues like managing the government expenditure currently, particularly the current expenditure, and also looking at how to restructure the debt and reduce the cash flow associated with payment of interest and other debt service in the immediate.
Okay, Mr. Chukwu, I would really like us to talk a bit on the issue of security. Can you hear me? Okay, I can see you shaking your head. Let's quickly take a break, and when we return, we'll try to reconnect with Johnson Chukwu, the GMD at Carry Asset Management.
Very simple terms, what it means is that states can now also distribute electricity in areas that the national grid covers. Previously, the Constitution gave the rights to state House of Assemblies to make laws for electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. But when it came to distribution, it caveated it and put a phrase that says they can't do it where the national grid is already in existence. So what that meant was that states were restricted to being in the distribution market in rural areas or areas that were deemed not covered by the national grid. So with this amendment or alteration of the Constitution, states now have the unfettered rights to make laws for electricity within their states that will cover generation, transmission, distribution in areas covered by the national grid and in areas not covered by the national grid.
All right, Johnson Chukwu, the GMD and CEO of Carry Asset Management, is still with me. Mr. Chukwu, so sorry about the network disruptions this morning, but I wanted to interrogate further when you talked a little bit about security, and I didn't just allow it, I didn't want that to slide. When you mentioned earlier that we do not spend so much money on security, at least since we've seen that Nigeria has been a challenge with insecurity issues. But let me put it out now that I think for the last 7 years or so, according to our budget, Nigeria has spent about 12 trillion naira plus on security apparatus and all of that, the Ministry of Defense and all of that. Is it that we are not spending enough money, or the monies we have spent, the 12 trillion naira plus now that we've spent on security, how have we utilized? Should we, investigate how these monies are being spent before we say, oh, we are not spending enough? Because a huge chunk of our budget goes to security. Mr. Chukwu, are you there?
Yes, okay. You were breaking it. You were asking how have we.
Yes, how have we? My question is, how have we utilized the 12 trillion naira plus in the last 7 years? Is it a matter of that we're not spending so much on security, or the amount we've spent on security so far, how have we utilized it?
Okay, there are two perspectives to it. One is getting value for money expenditure.
Oh,
In our expenditure on security. The other aspect is that is the 12 trillion sufficient to meet the size of the country, the challenges the country is facing today? I think that may still not be enough. Because if you take, for instance, the police, which is domestic, what we call homeland security. If you look at the police and you speak to people in the police force, and you realize that the government is not funding the police sufficiently, even at the divisional police levels. If you interact with the DPOs, they will let you know that they don't get the necessary expenditure or cash support they need to even feed detainees, to get the necessary things that they need for effective functioning of the police stations. Many of them do not even have operational vehicles. If you look at states like Lagos, where you have operational vehicles, a lot of those resources are funded by private sector support. But it should be a public service. It should be funded by the government. We're not saying there's something wrong with funding private sector supporting, but the major funding source cannot be private sector. If you go to states that do not have the level of private sector vibrancy as you have in a state like Lagos or Rivers, you realize the state government are not support for the police. I spoke with a commissioner of police maybe 2 years ago, and she told me, a commissioner of police in the state, and she told me that.
Can we see here Mr. Chukwu over there? Oh, okay. The network is really disrupting our flow today. Let's quickly take another break. When we return, we'll get Mr. Chukwu back, hopefully. All right, welcome back to the program. Johnson Chukwu, the GMD and CEO of Carry Assets, is online with me now. Mr. Chukwu, just before the break, we're talking about security, but I want us to leave that a bit and move to the issue of fuel subsidy, the removal. Nigerians are anticipating the removal of fuel subsidy because it's been so much in the news lately. Can you hear me, Mr. Chukwu?
Yeah, but they need to increase the volume. They need to increase the volume. It's very faint.
Okay. I was actually saying that, talking about fuel subsidy, Nigerians are anticipating that the government will take it off. What do you think about that, especially with the news around the loan from the World Bank, $800 million to ameliorate the effects of the fuel subsidy removal on Nigerians? Do you think this is the way to go, bearing in mind that some people are also of the view that it's not just about taking out subsidy, but about investigating so far what we spend on subsidy? Some people are of the view that Nigerians, the way we are right now, we can even subsidize if it is done well, if those numbers are accurate.
Well, starting from the first part of your question, whether the fuel subsidy is the right time to take it out, and if the $800 million so-called money that's supposed to be used as palliative to 10 million families is the right way to go. Clearly, there's no doubt that the current subsidy on fuel is not sustainable. So the government has to make it a priority to take it out. But in taking it out, you also have to balance the social impact of that on the citizens, particularly the period when people are still smarting from the way the election went. The current political environment is still tense, and a lot of Nigerians are agitated. So you need to first look at how do you calm down trade nerves, how do you get people to subscribe to the government, and then before you begin to inflict difficult policies on them. But clearly, it's a policy that has to be taken, whether the government will have the moral right, the public support to do that immediately, or they will have to first try to win over, assuming the announced result is sustained in court. So those are factors you have to look at. Then, as it relates to the $800 million that government said they want to share as palliative, I think that for me is putting the cart before the horse. The government, if they have gotten only $800 million of support from World Bank IMF, they should leave it on escrow account. And whenever the government implements, a new government implements the subsidy removal, the government will now have those resources. If you now distribute those resources now, for instance, and the subsidy is not taken out by May 29th or June 4th, people, what do you think will happen to people when the impact now hits home? So I think there's no point concluding the payments to cushion subsidy removal when the subsidy has not been removed. It should come after the subsidy has been removed. I think it becomes that for the primary motive for government now want to pay out $800 million to 10 million vulnerable families at a time when the subsidy is still running. It should come after the subsidy has been removed. It shouldn't precede decisive removal. That's my take on it.
Angle where you the angle where you mentioned, Mr. Shuko, I hope I can hear me now.
Your voice is quite faint. I think.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, the angle which you brought in, whether the incoming administration would take the bull by the horns in terms of removing the subsidy so it doesn't turn it against the people, because we've seen that any time this fuel subsidy is being touted, the removal, we see, an uproar from Nigerians. We saw what happened in 2012. But I want us to end this conversation by, bringing up the fact that President Buhari, I think, has apologized to Nigerians. I read it, I think, a few days ago, where he apologized that in any way I've hurt you, please forgive. I apologize. What do you think that President Buhari had in mind to say this? Because he will be leaving in the next few weeks. Is that apology tenable? Where do you think the head of the president is at? Apologizing to Nigerians after about 8 years. When I did read that, my mind went to, I started looking at economic indices, and I'm saying, he promised us that 100 million Nigerians will be pulled out of poverty. His administration was challenged with 2 recessions, 1 pandemic. It's been a topsy-turvy ride. Do you accept Mr. President's apology? Because for me, I don't know if I've accepted it, What do you think? Do you accept Mr. President's apology? But to err is woman, to forgive is divine,
Yes, Nancy, the president's apology was very narrow, and he said that those he may have offended or people he may have disappointed. So it's very narrow. But if we have to put the apology in proper perspective, he had to apologize for the economic failure that the administration put Nigeria through. If you look at the report card on the economy, which is my area of my forte, it doesn't look exciting. Nancy, when the president took over this governance, inflation rate was 9%. Today we are 52.04%. When this government came into power, exchange rate was about 180 at the official window and about 188 naira to a dollar at the parallel market window, the BDC window. Today we are talking about 737 naira to a dollar and about the parallel market window, and then about 461 naira to a dollar at the official rate. If you talk of this country, when the government came into power, unemployment was just 11%, and then we are now the last figure, which was third quarter of 2020, was about 3.3%. If you when you look at when the government came into power, our national debt was about 11 trillion naira. Today, official national debt is about 46 trillion naira. And if you add the waste and means funding, you are talking about 32 trillion naira. When the government came into power, our debt service was just about 1 trillion naira per annum. And today, by November last year, we were talking about 5.24 trillion naira. The recorded inflation had grown from just about 3 trillion to about more than 8 trillion naira. So, and then there has not been any material growth in capital expenditure. So if you look at these parameters, one will say, okay, the president, if he was actually talking about the economy, then it would have been proper context. When I'm not talking about other social factors or social spaces, like issue of security that may have increased, although they believe they had actually tamed it, but the man on the street believes that we're not having security almost every segment of the country, every region of the country. So, well, there's nothing we can do about that. We have a choice to accept the apology and hope that the future will be better than the past.
Okay, I think on that optimistic note and on that hopeful note, we should end the program today. You just said there's nothing we can do. We've lived through 8 years. Nigerians are very resilient people, and just like you said, when I read that, what my mind went to were the economic indices, and I was like, Mr. President, a lot of people have been made poorer. I also do know a lot of people have been made richer, because even in war, people still profit from it. But whatever it is, a significant amount of people have been plunged into poverty. 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. Indices even from his own administration. But like we'll say, we wish Mr. President well. He has the next few weeks to tidy and clean up his table for the next government to come on board. Mr. Chukwu, we'll hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you for joining us despite the disruptions today. I wish you a lovely day. And that's it on today's edition of the program. It's a wrap. Moneyline with Nancy, your #1 program for, deep, insightful business, financial, economic, investment, market information on this channel. I will see you all again tomorrow. God willing, be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye now.